You're listening to the Becoming More Me podcast with me, Teresa Lear Levine. You're already enough. But if you're anything like me, you thrive when you're stretching and developing yourself, creating more of the person you feel called to be. This podcast is here to inspire and support you. Let's release the negative, reinforce the positive, and elevate our vibe together as we tap into our limitless potential to transform and grow. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for coming back to listen to another episode of Becoming More Me. My guest today is Chaffin Donofrio. And Kara and I had the pleasure of a chance meeting when I was away with my mom and my sister last month in St. Michael's, which I know I talked about on a previous episode. And we took this delightful yoga class together and at the inn that we were both staying at. And we ended up exchanging information and realizing that we only live minutes from each other in our day-to-day life and share a lot of common interests with energy work, relationship building, and creating soul-fulfilling business that balances with our family life. So it just kind of seemed like a natural next step to invite her to come on and chat with me here so that you could all meet her too. I'll tell you a little bit about Kara, and then I'll let her really expand upon things since obviously she knows her own life and story best. So for the past 17 years, Kara, a real estate broker associate, has been a trusted advisor for her clients in the DC metro area. Her goal is to make dreams come true with grace and ease for both the sellers and the buyers that are her clients. And she excels in using her deep connections within the community, combined with a wealth of experience to transform the real estate experience from one of confusion and fear to magic and clarity. As a wife, a mom of 3 young children, and a long-term businesswoman, she understands the stress of juggling a busy life. Her goal is to make the home selling and buying process a pleasurable and exciting experience for her clients so they can be happy with their decision and ultimately love being home. Welcome, Kara, and thanks for being here today.
Well, it is just my honor. It was a chance meeting, and it's one of those meetings that, when you just meet somebody and you feel like, gosh, I feel like I know you, or we've got a similar story. And it was just, I'm a believer that there are no accidents. And so people meet in the right time for, in the right timing and divine timing. And so it was really beautiful meeting you. And I'm just really thrilled to be here. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also should mention that Kara is also a podcast host. And your podcast is Soul Fulfilling Business. Is that what it is? Soul Inspiring Business?
Soul Inspiring Business. Exactly.
Right. Okay.
So
there we
yes.
go. So yeah, we share that in common also. And I'd love for you to just like paint a picture of your life for us from your family to your job and how you got from where you were, say, like 18 years ago before you were actually doing the real estate stuff to like landing right here where you are in the present moment, and what inspired your career choice and how work and family life evolved for you.
Yeah. Well, no. So yeah, I started actually in real estate right out of college. So it was again, kind of right timing, chance opportunities. But I was a finance international business major. I was working with Disney consumer products, doing global finance. And a friend of mine was working with a builder. And so I was in an internship with Disney Consumer Products, I should mention, at the end of my college career. And that was kind of like what my parents wanted me to do. And they wanted me to go into this international finance world where I'd travel the world and doing global finance and all that. And I just wasn't really happy in looking at spreadsheets all day and doing financial planning. And so my friend was working with a builder and was like, gosh, I really feel like you'd love this. And so I said yes to a meeting, and that of course turned into a job and then a career that has spanned now, 17, 18 years. And so I'd say from the kind of like the then me to the now me, right? There's a lot of change that's occurred. And I think the biggest evolution that I've come to is kind of in the changing of how you do the business, right? So at that time it was like all hustle. It was just a lot. And to some degree, when you first get started into something, I think that has to be that, to some degree, you have to put a lot of grit into it. but I got a lot of like soul gratification from like being number one and being, you know, at the top of my game, so to speak, and really kind of like worked really long hours um and I was more hustle mode. Whereas I feel like as the business and as my confidence and as all the things that come with being in a business for a longer time come, it's evolved to um now I'm a lot more purposeful in the types of marketing that I do or how I work with clients or sometimes understanding that not everybody is meant to work with me, right? And so
Right.
understanding that the right people come in the right timing and that I will naturally, I mean, one of my intentions that I say every day is, God, please put the right people that are my soul aligned people in my path and, lovingly remove the ones that aren't.
I love it.
Because I love that, I think it's important to work with people that you are aligned with and that, um, and so now I would say, again, one of my other intentions is that business flows with grace and ease. And um, and I think it's not that I don't work a lot of hours, but I feel like the things that I am doing, I'm really fill my soul and I'm passionate about. And so it feels more at ease. And the business just naturally flows. And I just am kind of in always of a trusting state that I will be aligned with the right people in the business and that it will just naturally come in. And so
Yeah.
there are, like, I would say, practices that I do that kind of keep me in that mind space because I think any kind of commission business can be um, tough in that it does require a certain mindset,
Yeah.
and um, but I'd say those are kind of like the biggest changes in perspective that have happened through the years. And some of that has naturally unfolded. So just kind of to paint a picture, I started in real estate working with a builder. Then I went off on had a brief stint in California, a relationship that did not work out. Thankfully so. Um, but I didn't feel that way at the time. And then went into building my own real estate business. Then the Long and Foster, which is the broker that I'm associated with, they approached me to lead several of their offices. So I then went on to manage several hundred agents, managing a few different offices, learned so much from the role, but also as began to understand that wasn't really the right fit for me. And so then even though I was, doing well in that role, I decided to leave to go back and build my own team again, which is what I've done. And we work in the DMV and then have recently expanded to Annapolis. So all of those things have been an evolution. But I think a lot of it is now being very purposeful in and mindful of, okay, what are my unique gifts and how can I best share them? And how is this going to be more, I would say, fulfilling to my own soul and then also, my family and kind of creating a life more on purpose.
Yeah. And how old are your kids?
So they are 7, 5, and 3. So they're little ones.
Yeah.
Um,
That
and
takes a lot of
so
time.
it does. And it's a balance, it's kind of, we have, I have always had a nanny or a childcare provider to help with the kids. But the way that I think one of the things and one of the reasons I went back into building my own real estate team was because I wanted to be more in control and be, more my own boss with my schedule, and really create, again, kind of be able to be there with my kids in a bigger way that I felt like when I was working a corporate, working for another company, just wasn't it wasn't the type of life I wanted to. I wasn't the
Yeah.
type of mom I wanted to be.
Yeah, you've definitely taken
Um,
the time to try on all the
so
different hats and see what fits you and what doesn't. And, it's
absolutely.
we do kind of go from our, when we're in our 20s and then coming into our 30s, a lot more of like the ego driven kind of things and the accolades and stuff to like really getting into more of like what the soul really wants and the things that
Yeah.
are that are really feeling good on a deeper level. So that's really cool that you've been able to
Absolutely.
try out all those different things and see what really, suits you best. What are some of the, you mentioned some routines and things that you like to do that help you kind of, I don't know, stay in the zone or evolve further or whatever? What are some of your favorite practices?
So my really my daily routine is a morning routine, and I know sometimes people will cringe when they hear that because it's like you either resonate with it or you don't.
I love a
But
good morning routine. And I think
yeah, but
any other mom of several kids or more like us can, if you're not doing a morning routine and you've got a bunch of kids and you're trying to work, like you need it in your life. Like I don't care if
yeah,
it takes you like 2 or 3 weeks to get used to that alarm going off earlier or to train yourself. I mean, my body just wakes me up now. My body's like,
yeah,
cool, it's 4:30 a.m. Let's do it.
right,
And
yes,
I just
yes,
pop up and get it done. And I love it. I love, love, love that time, but it was not always the case. So I understand
yes,
people that cringe because I once was like, oh, just let me sleep. And then
yes,
understanding like that I didn't want to be woken up by my kids anymore. I wanted my day to start before them. I wanted my day to
yes,
be of my own, creation at the beginning, really get myself centered and everything else. So yeah, I got it. So what's your morning
yeah.
routine?
Yeah, no, that's so true because that's just it. You want to wake up before your kids so that I think for me, it creates a day of intention, right? Because
Mhm.
you're being very purposeful about what you want to create in that day. So for me, that looks like waking up at 5. Um, and really I'll do a 20-minute meditation. I use Sacred Acoustics. They're kind of my go-to little meditation on it's an app on my phone. And then I get into journaling. So I'm a really big I love to write. There's gosh, what was her name? I started The Artist's Way. I can't remember who the author is right now, but she has a whole like 30-day practice on like writing, and it's all stream of
Yes,
consciousness
I've seen that. I
journaling,
can't think of
right?
her name either. I have to like
Yeah.
Google it while you're
So
talking.
yeah. So I've done that. Like I've done some version of this kind of morning routine. Actually, in my 20s, I did it as well. So it's not
Julia
necessarily new, but
Cameron.
it's evolved. Julia Cameron. Yeah. So that's a great one if you want to just get started into journaling and writing. It's a beautiful kind of way into it. For me, what it kind of looks like is I'll literally kind of journal out like what I want to continue to create in my business. I'm a really big believer in like the being. So if you're kind of creating your goals and what you want to create, like being in the beingness of that. So like feeling the feelings of what that is and what that looks like. So for me, it may be as simple as like today I'm surrounded by, I mentioned earlier, I talked about the soul aligned people. Today I'm surrounded by people that are totally soul aligned, clients, that easily find me. And then it could evolve into, um, I'll do relationship stuff. So things that I want with my husband and the feelings that I want to
Yeah.
feel in our relationship. So it's some affirmations and some visualization and some journaling. And sometimes if I've got a big important meeting, like I may journal about that and journal about what I hope to accomplish. And then in that time too, after I'm done that, I'll write down like things that kind of a lot of times I'll just tune into what I need to hear in that moment. So like if there are things, I call it God, but like tuning into the universe, the tapping into whatever that is bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
And I kind of try to quiet the mind to hear some of those things. So it's a really good time to think about like projects that I'm working on, or if I'm stuck on something, I'll literally ask the question, like, what more do I need to know on this? And then I'll kind of wait for the answer to come in. So that's kind of what that morning practice looks like. It's really just like a centering, grounding time that's truly my own with my cup of coffee, and then I have a little devotional book called Jesus Calling, and I'll usually read an excerpt from that. That's a daily kind of excerpt. So but that's what
Do
that
you
looks
do
like.
all
Yeah.
of this from like your bedroom or do you get up and go somewhere to do this?
So typically I'll get up and go just because if like my husband's sleeping, or if, I typically will go to another space. Now, right now, I will say we are building our house and we are going to be moving in February fingers crossed. So we are living with my mom in her house, and she's been so gracious. She and my stepdad have been very gracious to take us all in.
Mhm.
So here I kind of just find a place that's quiet where no one is. So like
Yeah.
if my stepdad's up, but I look forward to creating a very intentional space in our new home. But here it's just where I can find a spot that's quiet and nobody's around.
Understood. Are you a fan of like Abraham Hicks?
I am, and I am actually on there. I get there. I go in and out of listening to them, like more and not as much. I'll kind of tune in and out of it. But I've actually been studying them really since like age 18.
Yeah.
So so another
Really
alignment
spurred my
between us.
interest in law of attraction and getting, becoming a law of attraction coach in addition to my other things as well. But with a lot of the stuff that you're talking about creating intention and, really figuring out how you want to feel during the course of the day, that's so important and very related to what they do. They've got
Yeah.
some great journals and things too for like deliberate creation too that are
Yes, I
along the
think there's
lines of
actually
like
one on money or something that I did that I can't remember the book now. Um but it was deliberate creation. And so I've kind of taken some of those principles and then use those along with just what I'm guided to at the time. But yeah, they were probably the start of my law of attraction mindset. And in fact, it's interesting. So one of the things that they talk a lot about visualization as well. And so back when I was selling new homes in like '04, well, actually it was like '07 when things were shifting. And '08, I would visualize my model home as a lighthouse, and that the right people would just like magically find me because I was literally like tucked away in this little hard to find behind a park type in Woodbridge, Virginia. And anyway, so I've been, using pieces of them for many, many, many years.
That's awesome. Now, I heard you say in one of your videos that you love making dreams come true for your clients and manifesting incredible results where the right opportunities appear. And my ears
Yeah.
totally perked up when I heard manifesting used in conjunction with real estate and wondered, like, from your perspective, as an agent, like, first, what does manifesting mean to you? And then how do you see it show up and come through in the real estate industry?
Yeah. No, it's so true. And I feel like, going back to how has the business shifted and changed, I think now I use a lot more of those words that I wouldn't have used several years ago because I'm like more in tune with, okay, this is just who I am. Like I'm going to talk about manifesting for my clients. I'm going to talk about all those things. But anyway, to me, it means, uh, finding out what it is that my clients really want, and getting crystal clear on that and helping them through that process of what it is they want. Because a lot of times people come to me and they may not be super clear. So I feel like part of my job is, at least on the home buying side and home selling, getting really clear on their goals and asking the right questions. And then once we're clear on what it is that they'd like to create, then manifesting to me means helping that come true for them, right? So like taking the clarity and then creating the outcome and helping create the outcome for them.
Yeah.
So uh I would say like a few things that I do for my clients, and some of it is some of the times they're in my journaling session. Like they will be in when I'm asking, what can I do to best help and guide this person? Sometimes I'll like pray over my clients and ask for the highest and best good to happen for them. And so a lot of that is like I think everything is energy. And
It is.
so yeah. So I mean we're all energy, and it's all and especially when you think about like even home selling, like land has energy, places have energy, homes have energy. And so you know, knowing all of that, there's just so much more that goes into it than just like buying and selling a home. right? There's so many other pieces that come into it, and there's so many other pieces of play that I feel like if I can bring in this kind of like magical mystic side that's based in science that and kind of bring that into the transaction and bring that in, then miraculous outcomes can be achieved.
Absolutely. I've always
And
said, because I've worked with a bunch of agents as clients and stuff in the past, that I'm like the whole trio, like the seller, the buyer, the agent, like they all need some emotional freedom techniques going on, like because there's so much to work through from every side of that like triangle, or sometimes it gets to be a different shape with other people that are involved. But it's just there's
yes,
so much to work through, so many emotions and everything else that come up during that time. And I think it's really cool that like you as an agent have some of that to offer to your clients as well.
yeah. Well, I mean, I've actually like it's interesting. One in home in particular, there was definitely a feeling of grief. It was actually a home where there was a divorced couple, and you could feel the heaviness, in the house actually. So I kind of worked in doing some of my own clearing on that particular house. But then I also brought in somebody that, I mean, I just paid for them to clear a lot of the energy out of the house because, again, like everything's energy. And so there's just so much more that comes into it. And so I don't know that I spelled that out on my marketing plan
Yeah.
to them. Clear house. But it was definitely, part of it because when you kind of feel that heaviness, like that's something that another buyer coming in would definitely feel it going through, and not they probably wouldn't consciously know why they didn't like the house. They just wouldn't like the house, right? And
Yeah,
so
depending on how well they're connected to their own intuition and how much they want to acknowledge what they're feeling and what it means. It all
exactly.
depends.
Exactly. Yeah. So, what are some of the things that we can do to kind of work from a holistic side on like creating outcomes that work for everybody? So, yeah.
It'd be like really interesting to see like an agent like work like for a year and clear energy on like all properties or whatever else. And then one that doesn't, like see like if there's like significant differences. I know there's so
Yeah.
much there that can't be measured, but I find that kind of fascinating because it really does. I mean, the energy of a home is as significant as the energy of a person.
Yes. And it's fascinating. And I will say like there's also a difference having worked with a lot of new agents too, and in my role as managing broker, I trained new agents and I worked with hundreds of agents, and seeing like the different emotional maturities of everybody as well. Like I think one of the biggest mistakes is sometimes people they take things too personally, because they don't realize that like this is a huge it- you know, emotional transaction for, I think buying a home, selling a home is up there with like the top 5 stressors in your life, right?
Yeah.
Along with like getting married and having children and all of that. And so I think where I really try to help people also is like meeting them when where they are. And I never take anything personally anymore. Like I used to probably back in the day when I didn't
Yeah.
understand where people were coming from as much. But to be able to say, you know what, even if they are really upset and hang up the phone or whatever, like it's not me. It's about like and how can I continue to help them? And half the time people come back and like, gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to say that, or I didn't mean to. I'm like, it's okay. Like
Yeah.
there's
Emotions run
no
high.
judgment. It's emotions running high, and like we're here for the same goal.
Yeah.
So I think and that goes from an agent to agent level too. There's a lot of things that maybe agents do that could um, get in the way of helping their client achieve the outcome, right? Like sometimes some things need to be shared and some things need to not be shared. So like having the emotional intelligence to know like how do we, when we know that what the right outcome is, like how do you help guide them there without getting them emotionally into a stir?
Yeah.
So anyway, and
I
that
wish
just
more buyers and sellers would approach the whole like situation as like an amazing opportunity to grow. Like I know I grew exponentially. I mean, every time I've moved, but in this last move, when we moved into this home that I'm in now in 2020, like the breakthroughs that I made of just like being conscious through the process, like, oh
Mhm.
crap, here's a money block, or like here's like me like being afraid to let go of this thing because I've had it forever kind of stuff, or like all these different feelings that come up about, your
Yes.
family and where you're headed in life and what you're capable of and everything. There's so much opportunity to break through and to really like improve relationships and especially your relationship with yourself if you approach it from
Yes.
that perspective.
I love that. I think that's so true. Yeah. It would be great if there's if there's
But
an
I think a lot of
education
people kind of
manual.
close down all that stuff while they're in the process because they're just like, I'm buying a home or I'm selling a home. And that's like what I'm doing. They're not seeing like all the stuff that's happening like internally and energetically during that entire transaction. I think like
Right.
opening up to that just makes the whole experience so much different.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that because I actually have some of these conversations with clients, like where I'll say, listen, because they'll kind of be in that zone, right? I'm like, listen, like, let's have some grace with yourself right now. Let's look at the magnitude of what this is. And so don't downplay how you're feeling. Just understand this is normal. So like sometimes it's like I do talk about some of those things with my clients and just realizing it comes out naturally. Um, but because it is a big thing. And sometimes I think, and then people will say, gosh, thanks for saying that. Like, I didn't realize like that other people felt this way, or, like, because you get so kind of stuck in your own tunnel vision.
Yeah.
So, helping people. I mean, I actually in 0809, I went back and took some grad level courses in social work because I thought I wanted to maybe go into counseling.
Okay.
Um, and then I realized I counsel people all day
Yeah.
long. And just so I'm like, I can use this skill set that I already have, and translate that into this work.
Right.
So anyway, I think that's really what it's about is like, um, taking what are your gifts in the world, and then how do you incorporate those into your business and showing up more authentically and showing up, for the people, like understanding what your natural gifts are and then figuring out how to best use them, I think
Yeah.
is what can help, just so many business owners
Absolutely. For sure.
find more fulfilling work. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and with real estate now, like obviously like interest rates are way up and there's a different dynamic and everything else right now. What do you see as like the pros of buying or selling in times like these?
Sure. Um, what I'm seeing right now is, buyers have more power than they did in the spring. In the spring, quite frankly, it was nutty. Granted, it was good to be a seller, but most sellers were also buying. So like, unless you timed the market where you happen to be, selling and then holding, like, and then not buying, you kind of tend to buy and sell in the same cycles. So I think right now there is really nice opportunity for buyers because they're able to have more power to negotiate than they did before in the spring. I think for sellers, um, I call it the pandemic lift, but um, the pricing before that, there was pre-pandemic pricing, then we got to pandemic pricing, which got a little nutty, and now the pricing is still higher than pre-pandemic. It's just so you got kind of a little pandemic lift from the pricing. So, and if you're selling and then buying, right, you may sell a little bit lower than you would have in the spring, but you're still, you have more power now as a buyer. So I think that, it is, there are more deals than there were. I mean, we didn't have them in the
No.
spring. So I think that's, if it's, I think really where for most people, like I really want them to just love their home and love their space. Interest rates, I don't know where they'll be, next year. There are some people saying, there's some people that are talking about, buying now and then refining if they come down. But, I always think, but they could do that, or they could go up, who knows? None of us have a crystal ball.
Mm.
I think one thing that I've been seeing people do is, instead of negotiating on a price, they may be able to negotiate with a seller to buy down the rate so they can buy down to a lower rate. I really don't think that it's healthy for a market to have 2.5%, 3% rates. I mean, it's great for anybody that was able to lock in at that, but I don't think that's a healthy market. I think it created a frenzy. So I think we're heading into right now. I mean, these are rates that we saw back in '04 when I first started in real estate. Like, this is kind of normal rates. And so I think that's good for the real estate market overall and the health of the real estate market. But I think again, it kind of comes back to, individually speaking, like, what are your goals and where do you see yourself? I think it's really important. Your home is an extension of, the reason my tagline is love being home is because I want people to truly love being home. I mean, that is your sanctuary. And if you don't feel good in your space, then that can translate to other areas of your life.
Absolutely.
And
A
so,
lot of my clients travel, and I'll work with them when they're in their home space, and I'll work with them when they're traveling. And so often it's interesting. And I love that I do that, because when they're away from their home, they get to notice all the things that they either love or don't love about their home space, and what needs to change, and if it even can be changed without, a
yeah.
move or something else. It's an important thing to assess and to be in tune with.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And I will say, like, for my own self, that's why this past, like, year of moving, and, like, I'm so looking forward to just being settled and grounded in our new space.
Yeah.
Because it's been a lot of nomad life with our family. And so, like, that has just been challenging. It's been certainly an opportunity to empathize with a lot of my clients and learn
Yes.
a lot more in terms of, like, custom building and how to best help them through these changes. Um, so there's a lot of growth that can happen through it. And again, as you said, like, using the opportunity to really figure out, like, what are some things I can shed? What are some blocks that I still have that I can clear my own self? Because it's been very unsettling to
Right.
not have a home base that's truly your own. So anyway, I don't know if that totally answered the question, but those are my just overall thoughts about, the market and
Yeah. No,
helping
those are all
people.
like
And
really important. And I
yeah,
guess in kind of bringing this to a close, I'd love for you to tell us like where people can find you, like who you tend to work with. They know if they'd be an ideal client, and if you have any other goodies that you want to give to our listeners today.
sure. No, thank you for that. Um, yeah, so in terms of clients, I mean, we serve the DMV and Annapolis. So if you are someone that is thinking of buying or selling in those areas, I can include the link to my calendar to schedule a
Great.
consult, and just see how we might be able to best help you and your needs. And that could be even just, I liked being a resource for people. So even if somebody needs, like, a plumber or an HVAC person or a painter, or, please feel free to reach out, because I'm happy to help just with all things on the real estate side. And on I guess the podcast, so Soul Inspiring Business Podcast, can be found on Spotify, Apple. The intention there, kind of similar to I think why we connected so well, is that what I'm passionate about doing on the podcast is really helping high level entrepreneurs, that um, helping them kind of figure out and align with what are the best gifts, what are their highest and best gifts in the world? How do they purposely put those into their business and creating a next level vision for their life? So, really, with the term soul inspiring business, it's about, finding inspiration in all you do and your work. So, and then, so Instagram, I'm on Instagram, Kara Chaffin Donofrio. So KaraChaffindonofrio. And that's on Instagram. On Facebook, you can find me using that as well. And then I do have a free gift for your listeners. Hope they enjoy. It's can be found at www.freegiftfromkara.com, and that's Kara with a K. And that is, I put together this life journal that I kind of use when I'm planning out what kind of are my next level goals and next level visions, and thinking through where do I want to be in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. It's kind of meant to be a roadmap for helping you plan out what your goals are in various areas of your life. And then it also has all of the affirmations that I use on a daily basis, really, to create wealth and opportunity with your business and your family relationships and all of that. So,
Sounds
so the best
amazing.
place.
Thank you so much. What a generous gift. I'm going to grab one for myself, and I'm sure our
Yes.
listeners will also. And also, it's great to have another resource in the area. I know we're always needing suggestions on things. So having somebody else that I can talk to, I know will benefit me. You'll be hearing from me.
Absolutely. I'm happy to help.
I'll make sure that all of your resources and socials and all that stuff ends up in the show notes, so everybody can just grab that really easily there. And I thank you so much for coming on today. Is there anything else that you wanted to add before we wrap up?
Really, it's just been a pleasure and an honor. And I really love what you're doing in the world, and your work on becoming more me, because I think that that's really what it's all about, is really kind of tuning in to your authentic self. Like, who did God choose you to be in this world? And then how can you be that for not only yourself, for others as well. And so thank you. This has been a treat.
Well, thank you. That's very sweet of you. And thanks for being here today. And thank you all for listening. Have an awesome day. Thanks so much for listening. If you loved this episode, please share it with a friend or post on social media and tag me so I can personally connect and thank you. Until next time, keep taking bold and brave action steps towards becoming more of who you want to be in this world. You are capable, you are worthy, and you are enough. Keep shining your light.